and welcome to another tutorial. I am I am totally ashamed to admit to you that my office is a mess again. I don't know if I warned you after the last video that once I tidied it, it wasn't going to stay tidy for very long. That is true. It is a mess. This is the least messy part I can show you. I'm so ashamed of myself. I try so hard. I try so hard and I fail epically every time. That's fine. You know, I know my faults. I know my weaknesses. Anyway, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to talk to you about how messy my room is again. I'm here to talk to you about liquid polymer clay. So I shall show you what it is and I shall show you how I use it. So let's go. Right, so we are talking about liquid polymer clay. This is liquid bakeable clay. People call it different things. I just call it, what do I call it? I would call it liquid clay. Some people call it TLS, is that translucent liquid sculpey? Things like that. This is the one that I use. And I use it for a few different things. I use it to make the frosting, so on things like this, can you see it's all drippy? And then I frosted the top of the cake. That's what this is used for. And I also used it for, I've used it for donuts, I've used it for cookies and things like that, where I've given them a really nice gooey finish. So I will show you now how to make some frosting. So let's get a bit of clay. Oh, should we make pink frosting? It's really easy. So I've just got a little glass tile, which I've recently come into. Also, I'm really sorry about the surface. I put this, it's like the oilcloth down to protect my desk underneath. So you've just got a little bit of pink clay. And I'm just going to condition it now and get it sort of soft. There you go, providing you with some music. And then I should pop it on here. I'm going to add a little bit at a time. And at this point, I'm still going to mix it with my hands. Mix, mix, mix. Add a little bit more. It's not particularly a cheap product, but a little does go quite a long way. I don't use it massively, so this bottle has lasted me a little while, which is good. This is all hard at the top. I say hard, it's slightly tacky, but it's not dripping everywhere. So if you can see now, every time I mix it, it's getting softer and softer, which is what we want. I'm only making a little bit because I don't really have any plans to use frosting at the moment, but I thought it was a really good way to show you. I'm just going to wipe it off my hands with a wet wipe. I remember when I first started looking at clay, I could see, oh right, before I go on to that, I'm just going to mix now with my little tool from the last video. I remember seeing people making all this frosting and I didn't know how they did it, and it took me such a long time to try and figure out how these people were making frosting. Some people do it differently. To me, this is the way I like to do it. I've seen people add in like Vaseline to soften it up so they don't have to use so much of the liquid clay. I'm not a fan of that. I've never tried it. I don't like the idea of adding Vaseline to my clay. Could be perfectly fine. Now, as you can see, it's getting softer and softer. And it gives you lots of different consistencies. Sorry, Conrad just came back from the school run. Anyway, so as I was saying, you can get different types of consistencies depending on how much or how little that you add. So if you look at it now, can I just zoom in a little bit? It's got like a buttercream quality to it. So it looks more realistic if you wanted to pop it onto things like cupcakes, or it also looks a little bit like ice cream, you know, like the soft whip ice cream. If that's what you're going for. And it feels a little bit like chewing gum. I know that's really gross, but that's what the consistency feels like. So I'm going to go ahead, add a little bit more. It's really fun. You could probably pop this into a little makeshift icing bag, like what have I got? Like a little plastic pouch. Nip the end off of it and then pipe it out onto your piece like you would do with regular frosting. So that would be really cute. Just keep adding now until I get the consistency that I'm looking for. My cat has just joined me. She's on my windowsill. You can't see her, but she's there, I promise you. These are really good for making things like spreads. So if you're making like little cute toasts or bagels, you could turn them into chocolate spread or jam or peanut butter. I think I'm almost there with how I would use it. Maybe a little bit more. Why not? Oh, there goes Chunky. That's not my cat's name. My cat's called Inky. The big cat. The new one's called Cookie. Right, so there we go. For me, that's ideal. Excuse me, it's really nice spreading consistency to add to a cake or a donut. Ooh, look at that. It looks almost edible. It isn't, so don't be fooled. And then what I do is I scoop it all up. Oh, there's not enough here to put into a pot, but if I move that out of the way, clean this off. What I've done, I pinched Hunter's paint pots. He was done with them. I scoop them all up and I keep them in these little jars, ready to use, because it doesn't really go hard. I mean, I could probably loosen it with a little bit more of the liquid, but I don't need it today. But this is how I store it, just in a little jar. I've also got chocolate, and let's wipe this off again. I call it chocolate. It's brown. Do not eat these. That's my vanilla frosting. This is my, oh, come on, Stace, you can do this. This is my chocolate frosting. Ooh. Lovely. So that's one way to use your liquid Sculpey. Another way is to soften your clay. So this is quite hard. Not completely unusable by any stretch, but a little bit of this, just a smidge, and you work it in. You see it's a little bit crumbly. You work it in. Don't add too much, because if you're not making the frosting, if you add too much, it becomes unusable, like chewing gum, and that's not what you want. But now, with just a tiny amount, I've turned a crumbly bit of clay into something usable. So that's, you know, it's not its only use. It can also be used as a bakeable glue. I do have, please excuse the label, I do have a bakeable glue, Bacon Bond, which I use all the time. But when that runs out, you can use this. I really hope it was helpful. If you have any other questions about the bakeable clay, let me know and I will try to answer them for you. Thank you so much for watching.